So I've been hearing a lot of people say that they're spending time listening lately. With everything that's going on in their world, with everything that's going on in their lives, they really feel like they need to listen. And as a communications professor, I want to applaud those people who are trying to listen and encourage the others who are struggling with it to keep going. But to do so, I need to clarify three really crucial concepts from communication on the topic of listening. The first one is that listening is an activity of your mind, not just your ears. Often we have this notion of saying, well, I heard the person. But just because the audio sound went into your ears does not mean that you actually listen to them. What's the difference? The difference between hearing someone and listening to someone is the difference between the sound of the words and the meaning of the words. Meaning is comprehended with your mind. You must use and engage your mind. And I actually think this is what Jesus was saying. In Matthew 13:9, he said, "Let him who has ears to hear, let him hear." Well, it sounds like, well, you're just saying, so you've got ears, use them. He's saying more than that. He's saying, if you have ears, that does not imply that you've actually listened. To listen, you actually have to pay attention, to use intention and attention to focus on the person that's in front of you. And this requires a lot of effort, which brings me to my second point. Listening is a lot of work. It requires hard work to listen to people. Why? Because we live in a world that's full of input, full of sound, full of things coming at us. And if we're really going to use our mind to do that, we're going to have to learn to listen through the noise. Now, when I say the word noise, most people think I mean something like a crowded room full of people or a construction site or a crying baby. But actually, there's a second kind of noise that's actually harder to work through. It's called internal noise. Internal noise gets brought out in a lot of different ways, but some easy ones to wrap our heads around are when we're feeling hungry or in pain, it makes it hard to listen to the people around us. When our body's hurting or something else is going on physically, it makes it hard to listen. That's a kind of noise that blocks our listening mind from hearing what the people are saying. The second kind of noise that we have to wrestle through is we hear voices in our heads of other people adding to the conversation. Maybe they're your friend or your mom or your dad or your grandma or just even your pastor or somebody else you know who's got an opinion on this subject while you're listening to them, and you're hearing that input on top of what the person in front of you is saying. And you're going to have to learn to set those aside so that you can still pay attention to the person that's in front of you, because often if you don't, those other voices can cloud the meaning of the person in front of you. The third one, the most powerful one, the most difficult one to overcome in terms of internal noise, is our own internal self-talk. We talk to ourselves. We talk to ourselves almost all the time. We say things to ourselves like, I don't want to listen to this, or this isn't a good idea, or I really like this and I want to go forward and I want to say something. The problem with the self-talk often is that we start rehearsing what we're going to say before the person finishes saying what they're going to say. That person hasn't even finished talking. We've heard, we think we've got it, so we start rehearsing in our head and our self-talk kicks in and we start talking before they're even done. To actually listen to a person requires focused attention to the person in front of you. Which brings me to my third point. Why would you spend this kind of time listening? Because the goal of listening is actually to understand the other person. See, unfortunately, humans like to put people and things in categories. We like to put them in boxes and say that we understand them. And the goal of listening often for us is to get them as quickly as we can into a category that we understand so that we can know how to relate to them. But that's not real listening. Real listening would require that we suspend judgment about which category they go into, or maybe not even categorize them at all, because we need to understand them as a person. You say, well, how do I know I'm doing this? It's actually quite simple. When you hear the words in your head, this person is just a, you will know that you've already put them in a category and moved on. this person's just a girl, a boy, an African American, an Anglo, a Hispanic. This person's just poor, or this person's just rich, or this person's just. You keep reducing them to a category so that you actually don't have to engage and listen to them. And when you do that, you actually can't get to the real goal of listening, which is understanding. Now, it may be said back to me, but listen, if I listen to them, really get close to them, what happens when I don't agree with them? Let's clarify before we finish here that listening to someone does not imply that you agree. I've listened to people I strongly disagree with because I'm trying to understand them, because I'm trying to understand some key things. Do we actually disagree, or do we just misunderstand each other? Did I put them in a category too early and I didn't understand what they meant? Or did I actually need to ask some clarifying questions to make sure I understand the nuance of them as a person? That doesn't mean I agree with them. I've had conversations with people that tell me all about crazy theories that they have and conspiracy theories and all kinds of things that they think, but I want to listen to them and understand who they are as a person. And as I begin to do that and I begin to gain that perspective, what I get actually in listening is the capacity to begin to really dialogue. And here is the heart of this entire conversation. That at the center of all great, lasting, meaningful change is the concept of real dialogue. And real dialogue isn't possible unless we all learn to listen.